It's like these are practical, non-discriminatory, logistical things that have to happen in order for an election to happen. So we have deadlines, so they don't get their vote in, it's got to go. They said no, sorry. They can vote after the election's over if they want to. This is America. It was disqualifying, and Cornel West can't be on the ballot at all because of the dating error. There was a huge section of their entire motion. We read through it. They'd like to get their ballot submitted after like November 9th. Oh crap, Trump won by 20,000 votes. How can we go round up 20,000 votes and just submit those? Pennsylvania is now reversing their lower court. They were going to be allowing ballots to come in whenever they wanted, essentially. Didn't really matter when it was postmarked or when the date was affixed onto the envelope, when it was sent, whatever. Didn't matter. The Court of Appeals in Pennsylvania said, it's fine. Just put it in the mailbox, not a big deal. But then the Court of Appeals got reversed. The Supreme Court of Pennsylvania is now restoring the date requirement for mail ballots. I know it's a really shocking thing that you'd actually have to have a deadline that is met. Very short decision, but here's some background on it. It says Pennsylvanians who vote by mail must write a proper date on their ballot envelopes for their votes to be counted under a decision that came out on Friday from the state Supreme Court that could affect thousands of voters this November, including all those wheelbarrows of votes that they want to dump in there at that 2 a.m. thing, you know, whatever that was. Oh, crap. Just dump them in. Just dump them. Yeah, but they don't have dates on them. Dump them. The decision voids on August 30th Commonwealth Court ruling, so a lower level court, said that enforcing the requirement on ballot dating violates voters' rights under the state constitution. Well, if they don't meet the deadline, then their vote doesn't count. Yeah, that's true. Well, then that disenfranchises them. Well, I mean, it's not disenfranchising them specifically, but yeah, they're not going to be able to vote because there's a deadline. We have an election deadline. So it's like these are practical, non-discriminatory, logistical things that have to happen in order for an election to happen. So we have deadlines, so they don't get their vote in, it's got to go. They said no, sorry. They can vote after the election's over if they want to. This is America. Now, the Supreme Court's 4-3 decision that reversed them was based on whether the lower court had jurisdiction in the case, not on the merits of the claim, meaning that the constitutional argument could be made again. But Republicans who appealed the lower court's decision argued to the state Supreme Court last week that the petitioner failed to include all counties as parties to the case in the original suit that was brought by the ACLU of Pennsylvania and the Public Interest Law Center targeted the Department of State. Now, the Commonwealth, the person Adam Bonin, a Philadelphia-based election lawyer who is not part of the case but has represented Democrats, said that barring another ruling, voters will need to write the date on their ballot in order for their ballots to be counted. Now, it's funny because this statement to VoteBeat and Spotlight Pennsylvania, Governor Josh Shapiro, Democrats are suddenly not sticklers about dates. He said, it's unfortunate the court did not side with the voters. He said, it should be clear that voters who make an inconsequential dating error, it's hilarious, deserve to still have their valid vote counted. It's amazing because earlier this week, we read another inconsequential dating error in the case of Cornel West. And he's trying to stay on the ballot in a very important state called Virginia, I believe. And in that state, Democracy Docket and Mark Elias, they're saying that one of his pieces of paper had an irreconcilable error, which was a bad date. Remember, the notary signed the wrong date from the elector, and they said, no, that means it wasn't signed in her presence, and so it's not an inconsequential dating error. It was disqualifying, and Cornel West can't be on the ballot at all because of the dating error. There was a huge section of their entire motion. We read through it. So now it's suddenly, well, that's what if they vote on November 15th? Does that count? Is that an inconsequential dating error? Can they vote 2 months after the election? You know, really unhappy that Trump won. I'd like to change my vote now. This is America. I'm a Democrat. My vote should count. Judges are like, it's true. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Okay, reverse it. Republicans called the decision a victory for election integrity, which is just abiding by deadlines. This is a huge win to protect the vote in Pennsylvania that will protect common sense mail ballot safeguards and help voters cast their ballots with confidence, said RNC chairman. Now, Judge David Wecht dissented from the majority, called on the Supreme Court to address this quickly. He said the court should exercise its King's Bench authority to bypass the judicial process and take this issue directly to the Supreme Court. So he was joined in his dissent by others. Others from the ACLU said they're going to continue this fight up. Federal judges have gone back and forth about whether enforcing this requirement violates federal law. And so thousands of ballots are rejected for dating issues all the time. During the April primary, counties rejected 8,500 ballots, or about 1%, for lacking a signature or a date, or for being returned without a secrecy envelope, right? And this is the reason why we have have in-person voting so that we know when you voted on the day of the election. But now suddenly, it's like you can vote whenever the hell you want. According to an analysis of the Pennsylvania Department of State data, people can't even properly date and execute their ballot. It's like, look, you've got some responsibility here as a citizen of the United States who's voting, a citizen, to understand how to participate in the democracy, right? It's not like, well, did you forget to fill in the bubbles too? You want us to help you fill in the bubbles on who to vote for too? More than 4,400 of those were rejected for dating issues. And they should get a letter back, say, hey, this is what you did wrong. This is why your vote didn't count. Next time, put the date on it. The ACLU and the Public Interest Law Center initiated the challenge earlier this summer on behalf of a coalition of civil rights groups, arguing that enforcing the date requirement violated the Free and Equal Elections Clause. Well, dates are discriminatory of the state constitution. They said the clause says that no power, civil or military, shall at any time interfere to prevent the free exercise of the right of suffrage, which is the voting. In August, majority of a 5-member panel of Commonwealth judges agreed with them. They said the refusal to count undated or incorrectly dated but timely mail-in ballots was inconsequential paperwork errors and just violates their fundamental right to vote. They have a right to vote, the dates be damned. The Supreme Court ruling means the requirement is back in place, they said. Sorry. Bonin noted that the challenges to the date requirement are still active on multiple tracks. They're going to try to get that, again, they'd like to get their ballots submitted after like November 9th. Oh, crap. Trump won by 20,000 votes. How can we go round up 20,000 votes and just submit those? The department hopes the question is answered as soon as possible. You have all these mail carriers who have come out and endorsed Kamala Harris, the union, and I guess they'll just pull sacks out again. Oh, look what we found in our back room. And they all got delivered after, there's no postmarks, whatever, and they'll just deliver them. All right, so we get how it works. Here is the actual order that came down in the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, Middle District. So what I'm guessing is this is more like a court of appeals if it is the Middle District, not the ultimate Supreme Court. So there is probably one higher level as well that they will appeal to. But let's see what this says. This is the Black Political Empowerment Project, the Power Interfaith, Make the Road Pennsylvania, One Pennsylvania Activist, New Pennsylvania Project, and others suing. This is an appeal of the Republican Party and the RNC. And so now in this mid-level court, so realistically, this seems like it's probably an appeals court, says per curiam from the appeals court. And now they say the order of the Commonwealth Court is vacated. The Commonwealth Court lacked jurisdiction to even review this matter, given the failure to name the county boards of elections of all 67 counties, and because of a joinder of Al Schmidt as the Secretary of Commonwealth, that's not sufficient to give them jurisdiction. And so thus, the absence of a party here, you don't have jurisdiction here, the request for the extraordinary jurisdiction is denied, and that's it. So not even a real substantive decision on the dates, right, and the fundamental rights and the right to vote and all of that. It's just, you don't have the right to even be in this court challenging or making the argument that dates don't matter. So get out of the courts. And basically that's going to be, I think, restoring the deadline requirement is how this is being interpreted.